Shit with Weddings by Sunnyside. We're back again to talk about first looks. What are you guys drinking tonight? The remainder of?
The remaining...
Yeah, the remainder version.
This is just a continuation of our first episode.
We're wearing the same clothes, so we're not
right.
Trying to
jigs up. Right. So we're drinking the same thing that we were drinking in episode 1, which is the director's cut of Coppola. Which now that it's opened up a little while from the first episode, it's
still
quite
fantastic.
delicious.
Shout out to my Uncle Rob for hooking it up with the wine. Thanks,
Uncle
Rob.
Cheers.
Yeah, we're talking about first looks today. The why nots, whether they're cool, whether they're not, who does them and who doesn't. So
I think we should start with you guys.
Yeah, why not?
What are you guys going to be doing for your wedding?
Donnie and Kristen, as a precursor, are getting married in November of 2018.
Right.
We're all very excited. They have an opinion about first looks.
We have an opinion. Well,
I mean, we all do.
I have a personal opinion. I don't necessarily have an opinion on how everyone should do it. Because
Agreed.
I think you should just do whatever you want. Mm-hmm. I've always seen myself walking down the aisle, and that being the first time that you saw me, you know?
Yeah.
And like, I have a specific type of song that I want to be playing. You know, it's like a whole vibe that I have envisioned in my head. And I think, well, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think a huge reason for me that I don't want to do a first look is because of music. Like, I want to be walking, I want the first time that we see each other to be set to music.
Set to music.
But that begs another question. There could be music during a first look. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, so that's my main thing is I want the first time that I see you, you know, I want there to be like this like
I agree.
emotional moment, you know,
even
with
from
music set to it.
Okay. So. From a videographer standpoint, I love first looks. Like, first looks are, for the most part, they're awesome. They can be awkward if they're not done right, or if there's like family members that show up and make it super awkward. But for the most part, they're awesome, and they're super emotional, and you get really amazing footage. At least I do. I don't know about you. Might be a different story. But I like them for certain couples. It can work very well.
Okay, certain couples for sure.
It can work very well.
It can also not work very well. I've had some really awkward first looks where I've had to like really help create emotion.
Oh no.
I've had some of the most awkward first looks where I honestly was like, why are we doing this? Like, are we just doing this because you think that you should be doing it? I have a love-hate relationship with them. I love them because it helps the flow of the day and the back end. It's like you can knock so much more stuff out in the beginning of the day before the ceremony. But I also don't love them because I feel like it does take some of the magic away from seeing that and the emotion that naturally comes with seeing that person when you walk down the aisle for the first time. That is just raw emotion.
Yeah, right.
I feel like a lot of times couples have a certain idea of what they think a first look is going to look and feel like when they do it. Right. And I've had some of the most awkward experiences where they literally like do the first look and they see each other and then they're like, okay, and they literally look at me and they're like, so now what are we doing? And I'm like, just be together.
Enjoy it.
Enjoy this minute. Like I'm not here. I'm just hiding. Pretend I'm not here.
That's the other thing though, is it's like if you're someone that doesn't like to be the center of attention, which I'm not, I don't like to be the center of attention, I feel like you would automatically think that would mean I wouldn't want to be walking down the aisle and have everyone, you know what I mean, and have that whole thing happen. But I feel like it's almost a little bit more, you're almost more on the spot with just you guys and a photographer and videographer, you know, and it's like, sometimes it can be like kind of a weird thing if you're not comfortable being, you know,
showing your emotions.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're not like that.
Exactly. So
all the more reason then to do a first look, right? Because you can get that emotion out.
Depends on the person.
It depends on the person. Yeah.
I've had people turn around. I've had grooms turn around and just be like, "Hi, honey."
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
I guess that was pointless.
100%.
Right?
Same.
Yeah. Okay. So, but you get those couples who are like, oh my gosh, this is happening, oh my god, and they turn around and it's just like waterworks, and it's like the most magical thing in the world. So what did you guys do?
I bought like a baby, man. We did a first look, and my wife actually made sure that I said that we recommend first looks to everybody. I mean, for me, it was a great moment that I thought I had the opportunity to really, really absorb and like just look at her. And I had a different emotion when she walked up the aisle too. So I don't think anything was ruined. Granted, it wasn't the first time I saw her, but when I turned around and I saw her, like, I had time to just process it in my brain and just stare at her, and it was just us for a little while, and then, you know, I bawled. And then I bawled again when I saw her walking up, you know, the aisle too, you know, and I totally am. I cried a ton during my wedding. So for me, it was not only a time saver, it saved us a lot of after photos. And really, in our first video, if you guys watch, I actually was talking about how, like, after pictures, your jaw, your mouth, your cheeks start to hurt a little. So we were able to really get those perfect smile pictures, I think, with our first look. And then we had those. And to be honest, I noticed those differences in my smile, in my photos. Like, I could see where I was just like forcing it versus when I first saw her and we were doing our first look photos there too. But I totally get that. The one thing that we didn't have during our first look was music. And
I've never seen that.
I haven't either.
I just thought of that literally when I was saying that.
You would think with the power of Bluetooth speakers now, like someone would just have a Bluetooth speaker in their pocket and they could just play a song.
I use music during just normal photo sessions to help like lessen the silence between me and the clicking of my camera and the couple that I'm photographing.
Because I think that's a huge thing with the first looks for me is like, you know, when I've witnessed them, sometimes it can be a super emotional moment, and then sometimes people are just kind of like, oh, hey. And I think music, like the climax of music can help bring the emotion to the moment. Absolutely. You know what I mean? It's less like, it's not as underwhelming as it could potentially be, you know? So I think that I mean, music.
It's just like watching a slideshow of photographs. If I play a slideshow of photographs without music, it doesn't have
that same
nearly as the same impact as it does with music.
Sure.
Well,
so one thing about that, one thing to note about that, if you are having a videographer who's going to be at your first look, something to keep in mind is if you're playing music at any time while they're capturing film, you're not going to be able to use any of that audio. So if
it doesn't matter anyways.
Sometimes it does. I have captured first look audio that I've used because what they're saying is like truly meaningful and truly powerful. It's in the moment.
Yeah.
And you hear them crying, and you like those sort of sounds you wouldn't be able to get if there's a music playing in the background. True. You know. So that's just one little side note. But you're right. Music lends so much emotion to any situation. Slideshows, films, everything has to be set to music.
If you play back a first look that you filmed, you know, obviously there's emotion in it just from the visuals, but the music that you set to it and the fact that the music comes to this like climax, and then you see the first look and it's just like this overwhelming, you know,
even watching it back and it's not your first look and you're like, oh,
I know,
right? That's like mine and Christopher's video, which was done by our really good friend Daryl. Almost 5.5 years ago. It's by no means like an amazing wedding video, but the first look for our wedding video is at the end.
Yeah, tell us about yours.
And the way that it's set to the music is a song that my brother Donnie actually wrote for our wedding specifically.
Right, I remember
sang during our first dance, and so
I love that wedding video.
I do too.
We're gonna have to post it in the links now because people are gonna be like,
I know.
We need to see it.
It was my one stipulation
we'll put it below
that song had to be incorporated into the final video, and so Daryl tied it into the second half of it. And the way that he tied in Donnie's lyrics with the video of Chris and I having our first look, every single time makes me cry.
Of course.
But I also think that when we got married, how long have you and Ashley been married now?
Almost 3 years.
Okay, so Chris and I got married before Pinterest was a thing. So like I didn't have all of that overwhelming amount of influence, and I just feel like Pinterest, I also have a love-hate relationship with Pinterest. You know, it's like it can be super overwhelming, but it can also be an incredible resource if you allow it to be. But I also think that it can curate false hopes.
Unrealistic.
It's unrealistic. It can create these expectations for clients where they see something but they don't necessarily understand what's going on behind the scenes. And I think a lot of that comes into first looks, where I think a lot of that is why I've had those really awkward situations where the clients are like, okay, now what we do? But maybe that's also on me, where I'm not setting the tone and explaining like how the first look is really going to go. Maybe it's because I have these expectations where clients know what it's going to be like.
I don't think you can control that. That's that's a complete roll the dice though, right? I mean, you really don't know. You can't control how a bride and groom are going to feel, on there. And I think that's a part of our jobs is to work in those types of situations and roll with what we got.
Yeah, totally.
So, do you feel like that you made the right choice in doing a first look?
At the time, yes. My life at the time was really crazy for other reasons outside of mine and Christopher's relationship. But doing a first look was also becoming a thing. Like, it was this new thing that people hadn't really ever done before, and it was like, cool, this is totally cool. Like, it'll help the nerves, and I knew Chris was gonna cry. And so for him, it was also a relief to know that like we could have that together just between the two of us, and obviously the photographer, and the videographer.
And your whole bridal party.
And the whole bridal party that was like standing. But you can't see them, but like we knew that they were there. But Chris and I also went into it knowing, like, we hadn't seen, it wasn't like, you know, now today where you like you see on Pinterest like first looks everywhere, and everybody posts a gallery and videos and first look. So for us, it was this situation that we walked into knowing, like, I knew at the venue how I wanted the first look to go. I knew exactly where it was going to be. And we wanted to have that time just between the two of us. Mostly because I knew that it would be really emotional if Chris and I saw each other with me walking down the aisle for the first time. And both he and I really didn't want to share that overwhelming emotion with the rest of our wedding guests. But now it's hard because as a photographer at a wedding, I really love when they happen because I get so much more control over the way that the day flows. But as a person who looks at weddings from the outside, I love the magic of a bride and groom seeing each other for the first time walking down the aisle. It sometimes is hard to capture that type of emotion as a photographer when they've already had that first look. And
just pure raw emotion.
Yeah, and I feel like some of my favorite pictures from weddings, like I'm thinking of Jessica and Chase specifically from October.
We can post this up on the video.
They're Chase seeing Jessica for the first time walking down the aisle, like just, I mean, I already cried almost every
Here's
single
a man
wedding.
who's in the military, mind you, is fresh out of the army after like 4.5 years. He's a man.
And she's pregnant, she's glowing.
He balls like a little boy.
And his brother sitting next, like, that's one of my favorite pictures.
I literally just got chills thinking about it, remembering it. That
frame that we have of him and his brother side by side.
Just bawling.
Wiping tears off their face as she walked down the aisle.
That's awesome.
And I cried almost every single wedding. Yeah. During the ceremony, I am definitely in the first dance, and sometimes the father-daughter dance. I'm a crier at weddings. But that wedding in particular, I was probably choked up almost the entire ceremony just because the emotion that they shared. But again,
and the reception, the speeches,
and everything.
Yeah. Again, there's a special case.
It's a special case, and I feel like every couple is going to be different,
right?
And every person is different. You know, you have emotional people and you have non-emotional people who are more private, and I think it just varies on a case-by-case basis. And I think my one piece of advice for every couple that I meet with is just do what feels right for you.
Yeah.
If you're doing it because you want it for the photographs, don't do it.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, like, those pictures aren't necessarily going to be magical. Aren't necessarily going to be magical if you're really curating and orchestrating an event that you think is going to be a certain way. Right. But if you're doing it for other reasons, like we want to get the jitters out, or, you know, we want to have that special moment between the two of us before we share that moment with all of our other wedding guests, then heck yeah, do it. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it can go either way. You just gotta stay.
There's no wrong way or
right
way to do it. Yeah, I honestly can't say if I would do it either way now that I'm looking back to it. Like, I don't know. I just know how much I bawled because I was a softie, and that might have looked amazing in photos. It might have looked a little crazy in photos, I guess. I can't tell. I don't see too many photos of myself like bawling, right? And people's crying faces are, I don't know. Yeah,
sometimes they can be really beautiful, and sometimes they can be a hot mess.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
guys. But if it's like a
it's like a tear where it's like really emotional,
right?
Then you can pull it off.
But I also feel like that moment for mine and Krista's wedding, the video, that part of the video is my favorite moment. Along with the song, it's just like everything lines up so perfectly. Daryl did an amazing job. But also, I had a friend of mine who's an animator create a cartoon caricature of that specific scene of when Christopher sees me, and it is one of my favorite pieces of art that I have in our house. It was my 1-year anniversary gift to him. And that scene of when he sees me for the first time, Fabian, his name's Fabian, he's amazing, drew that scene of him and me, like in the way that I'm standing and the way that Chris is like looking at me, and it's amazing. So would I do it differently again? I don't think so, just based on what I have from that experience.
Sure.
But if I was getting married today, I don't think I would do a first look. It's really weird. As a photographer, I love them, but
yeah.
I think what is important if you don't do a first look is to make sure that you have at least one part of the day where you have like a private moment with the person that you're marrying, because like,
is it before or after the ceremony though?
Well, see, I don't know. I mean, like, well, I'm referring to like we are gonna have vows, but we're gonna read them to each other privately, not at the ceremony. So like that's just gonna be something that just the two of us do. I don't know if it's gonna be before or after, or how we're gonna orchestrate that, but that'll be the moment that we have. I don't know if it's gonna be captured. I don't really care. You know what I mean? That's just gonna be like a moment that we have. That's just the two of us, not in front of everyone else, because it's something that, you know, we want to just.
And as a photographer, I would say I would want to be there.
Yeah, I mean, probably.
But that's just me. I would
There's
love
lots of other
to capture
times
that.
during the day. There's a lot of other times during the day where you'll be alone, i.e. golden hour, portraits, first
I
dance,
recommended
those
a
sorts of
cocktail
things.
hour. After you're done with your family photos, go take 20 minutes and go be alone. That's one of the coolest things at well, we got our wedding done at Rooster Run Golf Club in Petaluma, and they had this little like office that a bride and groom can just escape to. And when we got there was a plate of appetizers that were waiting for us. Awesome. Right, so we got to snack on some appetizers. I think some people fixed Ashley's dress, but they left us alone for a while. We just ate and said, "Oh my God, we're married now." And we looked at each other like, "All right, you ready to go rage?" And then we hit the town, right? So I would definitely recommend that if you guys choose not to be alone prior, that you do have that moment and that you are alone. And I highly recommend it during cocktail hour. It's a great time to do it.
Yeah.
So one more thing to touch on before we wrap this up: semi-first looks. We've seen them.
Oh yeah.
Like the back-to-back?
Where people don't actually look.
Or like
They
around the
touch.
corner from
They
each
touch.
other.
Pass notes
They
to each
talk.
other. Yeah,
exactly. How do you feel about those? I like them.
I like them.
I like them because you get best of both worlds.
Yeah, you do.
I would love it. I mean, like a cool way to do it would be for my bride to read me the vows, like
around the corner.
Around the corner, and I would just hear her voice,
That is a nice
and her
idea.
voice would just penetrate
Yeah.
in it, and then you would have her voice reading the vows to you as you walk, and then you finally see her, and bang,
Let her know.
there you
That
go.
is
So
great idea.
amazing.
well, that would be what I would do if I was going to take advantage there. Like, you could hold hands, and that's cool to kind of feel each other, but to hear words, that's something very important, like the vows.
Exactly.
I feel like the holding hands pictures are like kind of overdone. I've seen some amazing photographers do an amazing job with them.
You
I
have
love
one.
The way,
what is that? Crane Barrel or Crane?
At Crane.
Melon.
Amanda.
Yeah.
So we're gonna share these.
That
We're gonna share these
emotion.
photos.
Yeah.
That emotion was raw.
So they
and
work.
White was amazing, and you're right. It was.
Again.
I helped them create that scene. They had an idea in their mind, and I was like, let's do it here. And yeah, they shared a moment, but they did see each other. It was just they shared a moment beforehand where they wanted those photographs, but it was real. But they're also the type of couple that is really connected on an emotional level. Not everybody's that way, and that's totally cool.
Right.
But yeah, Mike, they were both really emotional. Those are some of my favorite. You're right. Some of my favorite pictures I've ever taken was them standing there holding hands, just being in the moment together. But they really knew what they wanted to get out of it, and I don't know. I feel like they went in it with the right expectations,
Sure.
and I was just there as a fly on the wall, just watching it unfold.
Right.
So, yeah.
All right. So to wrap this up, first looks, why you do them?
Whatever
Hope
floats
you
your boat.
enjoyed that
Yeah,
conversation, man.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, there's no right and wrong.
There is no right and
It's
wrong.
all about how you feel. If you think you
What
are
kind of
gonna
person you are, what
have,
kind of couple you
if you think you're
are.
gonna have an emotional moment together, do a first look. If it means a lot to you, do a first look. Don't hold back on that. And then if you're more the traditional type of person, don't do a first look. We touched on the whys being like, to shake off some of those jitters. It's nice to see your loved one before you go in front of hundreds of people and then have to like try and hold it together. Get your tears out early.
And then get married.
Yeah.
Right?
But maybe you don't want to kill that magic, and not necessarily killing it. Maybe you don't want to use up the magic before the ceremony, and so you want that magical moment to be, the
right.
very
Or you
first.
have a vision and you have a song and a picture in your head. You should absolutely do it the way you dreamed of.
Yeah.
Right. So
there you have it, folks.
we'll let everybody know what happens when we when you guys get married.
Stay
And we
tuned.
document that too. Yeah. So
Stay tuned for another year and a half.
Yeah, right. Well,
it's a lot of vlogs that we're going to be doing.
I know.
Oh yeah.
So make sure you let us know what you guys think in the comments. Whether you have done a first look, whether you would do it again, or if you are getting married, whether or not you are going to do it and why.
We want to know what you did, what you didn't do.
And we love interacting with our people and our followers and the people we've worked with before, and the people we're about to work with. So definitely let us know in the comments and follow our YouTube page.
Yep. Yeah. Subscribe.
Cheers.
Peace.
see you guys next episode.